Hi ladies and gentlemen, fellow traders, welcome to another episode of Weekly Forex Outlook with Chart Engineering Pro. We really appreciate you for taking the time to watch this video, and we do not take it for granted at all. If you haven't yet subscribed or you are new to this channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any content we post here. And if you also find value with what we share here, be sure to like, drop a comment, share your views, and share this video to your fellow traders or anyone who would find this information useful. I also like to wish all of us a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year ahead of us. Thank you so much for sticking around, for spending time to engage this channel ever since we started, and we really appreciate you. As we enter this holiday season, try to spend time with your family and friends and take good care of yourselves, and we'll catch you on the other side, God willing, next year, 2026. So without wasting much time, let's have a quick recap of last week's setups discussed in our previous video before we dive into next week's analysis. Stay tuned. This is CHF JPY. So as of last week, we were expecting price to pull back to any of these two areas of interest. Price did exactly that, and when price got to the zone, we got a 4-hour structure shift around this area. We got a structure shift here, and we're expecting price to break the structure and give us a pullback to give us an entry opportunity to the upside. But unfortunately, we never got that pullback to engage this trade, so it was a missed trade. It was a perfect trade, but then it was missed because we didn't get an entry signal or entry for this particular setup on CHF JPY. We also have a USDJPY. It's a similar setup as we had on CHF JPY. Last week we were expecting price to break this structure high, but price actually made dipped a bit and then gave us the structure shift here instead. And then when the structure shift came in, we also expected a deeper pullback to give us an entry, but price just retested this structure point quickly and then just took off. So this trade was also very fast and we couldn't catch this entry. If we hadn't waited for an extra confirmation or a deeper pullback, this could have been our entry after we got this rejection candle from the structure points. This was the 4-hour engulfing candle that engulfed those rejection candles. So we could have gotten our entry somewhere here, put our stop loss here, and targeted the first two targets we had here. We also have an extended target way above here, which we'll be looking at for the coming week, somewhere here. So let's see what we have for the week with the economic calendar. So as we already know, we are in the holiday season, and due to that, a lot of the banks around the world will be on holidays, which means we might likely have a very slow week when it comes to volatility. So let's be on the lookout. I mean, throughout the week, there's bank holidays all over, and the only high impact news we have on next week is CAD, GDP, and then USD prelim GDP quarter on quarter on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, there's unemployment claims for the USD, and on Thursday we have the Bank of Japan's governor speaking. Apart from that, the rest of the week is just bank holiday all across. So we might have a very slow week, but then we are also not to neglect the fact that there are opportunities that we can also look at should they play out during the week. So let's dive into the charts for the coming week. This is DXY on the daily time frame. So DXY, as we can see, we had this bearish move from previous weeks, and currently price is actually pulling back to this second area of interest. From what I'm seeing, price is actually going to be pulling back to this second area of interest and give us a possible sell opportunity to the downside. And should this play out, should price make its way there and we start seeing some rejections or selling confirmations around this area, this will be a possible head and shoulder formation, but it's in a very disguised way. So this is our left shoulder, this will be our possible, this is our head, and this might be our possible right shoulder, which we'll be anticipating to happen around this zone and give us a sell to the downside. So for the coming week, we are going to see some bullishness for possible bullishness for DXY. Also, should we react from this very first zone to, we are also going to take the opportunities. If we are able to get a reaction from this very first zone, we'll look for the selling opportunities to the downside. But I'm foreseeing this entering the second zone above to give us a possible right shoulder, and then we find selling opportunities to the downside. Should price also break or violate this zone above, the second zone above, and also break above the structural daily structural highs above here, we are also likely going to see a bullishness from this point. So until then, we are still very bearish on DXY for the coming week. We have here EURUSD. So considering what we saw or what we are seeing, the possibilities we are seeing on DXY going into next week, we'll be expecting a possible pullback to this very first zone. Should we get any bullish reactions from here, we'll be very glad to take the buys to the upside. Or should price pull back a bit deeper to the second zone we have below, which I'm very much confident, or I'm actually anticipating that price should get to the second zone instead to give us a deeper pullback before we see some bullish reactions from there to the upside. So should price find its way to break these lows, these daily lows, then we are going to be very, very strong EURUSD. And this is very similar to what we have on DXY. It's a head and an inverse head and shoulder in disguise. This is the left shoulder, this is the head, this is the right shoulder, and then this is a continuation of the pattern. So what we are seeing here is a possible pullback into the neckline. So either this first zone or second zone, we'll be looking out for the reaction to continue the buys to the upside. So we are also going to see some bearishness. We are looking forward to some bearishness on EURUSD before we see the buys to the upside for the coming week. We also have GBPUSD, which we're looking forward to see a triangle correction, looking at it in an Elliott wave perspective. And as we have here, it's a 3333 wave triangle correction. So we have wave 1, 2, 3, wave 1, 2, 3, wave 1, 2, 3. So this is a possible wave 1 we see here. So we are looking forward to a possible wave 2 correction before we get a continuation to the upside to complete the 3 wave structure. So price might pull back to this very first zone. By looking at how high DXY might pull back to, we'll be looking forward to see price pull back to this second zone below and give us some bullish confirmations to take us to the upside. So we're also not going to rule out the fact that if price reacts from this first zone also and give us some bullishness, some bullish confirmations, we'll also be glad to take the buys from this very first zone above. But I'm personally looking forward to a deeper pullback into the second zone below and look for buying opportunities to the upside to complete the D leg of the possible triangle correction. We have here USDJPY, and on the broader view, USDJPY is actually forming a harmonic pattern called a butterfly pattern. And so for the long term, we are going to be very bullish until price gets to this target on around 168.00. So until then, we are also going to be, we are very bullish on USDJPY until price gets to this target. So going forward, we'll be looking forward to more buying opportunities on USDJPY than selling opportunities. Nevertheless, we might also see price giving us some retracements, some deeper retracements, or some deeper corrections before we can get a continuation to the upside. So looking at the structure we have here, we are most likely going to see a possible pullback. I mean, we are currently seeing a crab pattern formation right here. So this going into next week, we'll be looking forward to a possible pullback to this very first zone to look for buying opportunities to complete this crab pattern. Or should price pull back a bit deeper to the second zone, we'll be very glad to take the buys from here. So this is the harmonic pattern that is developing. So this is our X. This will be our X, our A leg, our B leg, our C leg, and a continuation to the completion of the crab pattern that we have above around 160.089. for USDJPY. So we are very bullish on USDJPY for the coming week. This can only be invalidated if price breaks this zone, clears these lows, and comes for a retest and then continues to the downside. Until then, we are very bullish on USDJPY. We also have a USDCHF. For USDCHF, it's looking very tricky. So last week we were anticipating that price was going to pull back to retest the structure points and give us a selling opportunity to the downside. Price actually consolidated all throughout the week. So going into next week, we'll still be looking forward to these reactions. Should we get a bullish reaction or a bullish confirmation here, price might buy and break above this zone above. But then looking at the weakness, the possible weakness we are anticipating on DXY, probably DXY, because it's going to buy for a while to retest the zone we're looking at before we look at the sells on a long term or in the medium term. Price might buy and retrace or buy and react from this zone or retest the structure points and look for selling opportunities to complete this daily deep crab pattern that has been developing for a very long time. So we are looking forward to completion of this harmonic pattern, and so if we get these selling opportunities around this zone, we will be glad to take them. Or should price break below this structure point but with a daily candle or a weekly candle and comes for a retest, we look for the selling opportunities to the downside for USDCHF. So we have to wait and see how price reacts when it gets to this area, or should price break below and give us a retest, we'll be very glad to continue the sales to the downside to complete this harmonic pattern. We also have AUD USD. So AUD USD has played out as I think a Gradley pattern, sorry, a cipher pattern or a shark pattern. I think a shark pattern. Yeah, so this is the harmonic pattern that it developed. This is the X, this is the A, this is the B, the C leg, and the D leg, this is the D leg. So we are looking forward to see price to sell to these various TPs to the downside. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to and also considering DXY's possible strength, we are looking forward to a possible pullback into this zone to get selling confirmations to this first TP, second TP, and then our third TP. Should price get here, or should price get to the second TP and give us some bullish confirmations, we'll be glad to take the buys from here to the upside, to continue the buys to the upside. So these two areas of interest, we'll be looking out for buys, but we will have to wait for a while and see how price develops for the coming week. So should price react from this zone and give us bullish confirmations, we'll be glad to continue the buys to the upside. But until then, looking at the DXY strength, we'll be looking forward to possible sells from a retest of this particular area of interest to the downside. So these three targets we have below here. We also have NZDUSD. So NZDUSD is also likely correcting to this area of interest we have below before we can see some bullishness from NZDUSD. So going into next week, we're looking forward to some bearish moves. We're looking for some bearish moves here. So we're going to look out for a possible pullback into this area of interest. Should we get selling confirmations around here, we'll take ourselves to this zone where we are anticipating to look for buying opportunities from. So going into next week, we'll be bearish on NZDUSD for the coming week. We also have the EURCAD, and EURCAD, as we shared in our previous episodes, EURCAD is giving us this possible head and shoulder formation. This is the left shoulder, this is the head, this is the right shoulder. So currently price is retesting the neckline of the head and shoulder pattern, where we'll be looking forward to selling opportunities to the downside. And we can see some reactions of price slowing down a bit in the zone which we anticipated it to pull back into. And then going into next week, we're going to look out for these possibilities. So as you can see on the 4-hour time frame, price is giving us a possible head and shoulder formation also here. This is the left shoulder, this is the head, there's a possible right shoulder right here. So we are looking forward to see this formation for the coming week. So these are possibilities for the coming week. Should we get a daily candle closing below the zone? If we get a daily candle closing below this zone or breaking the neckline, we'll wait for a possible pullback into this neckline or a deeper pullback back into this zone again and look for selling opportunities to the downside, targeting the various targets, overall targets we have at the bottom. So we are bearish on EURCAD for the coming week. Okay, so should price also pull back or buy a little bit higher? Should price give us something like this? Should price buy a bit higher and give us some selling confirmations around this zone or this line? Should we get some selling confirmations here? We might risk, we can take a lower risk entry somewhere here and take it to the downside, or wait for a break below this neckline and continue the sales to the downside. So if we're able to catch something like this around this zone, the stop loss is going to be above this high, this head, and then we target have our targets to the downside. So that's what we'll be looking out for on EURCAD. This can only be invalidated if price breaks above this structure points over here and continues to the upside. Until then, we are extremely bearish for EURCAD for the coming week. We also have here GBPCAD, and we were anticipating price to pull back into this very first zone or the second zone above to give us selling confirmations. And looking at how price reacted, price has been rejecting this zone for some time now. So going into next week, should we get a pullback once again into this zone, get a pullback as we have here, pullback into this zone and get selling confirmations or reversal patterns within this zone, we'll be glad to take the sells also to the downside. And or should it go buy a bit higher into the second zone and give us the reactions here to the downside, we'll still be interested in taking the sells from there. And our targets are below. We have this zone as our targets below. And the other alternative for this too is, should we get a 4-hour structural shift? So as we enter next week, should we get a 4-hour structural shift here? If this 4-hour structure breaks and we get a possible what do you call it, lower high around here or a back into this zone, we might look out for reversal confirmations around this zone, or if we get a lower high, we look forward to selling opportunities to the downside if we get something like that for the coming week. So we are also very bearish on GBPCAD for the coming week. We have here NZDCAD. So NZDCAD, we're looking forward to, last week we're looking forward to a pullback around this zone somewhere here to give us selling opportunities, but price never pulled back into those areas and give us some downward momentum. So going into next week, we'll also be looking forward to a possible pullback to this area of interest once again to give us selling confirmations to the various targets we have below. So we are also very bearish on NZDCAD for the coming week. This can only be invalidated, or this can only shift extremely bullish if price breaks above this zone we have here and continues to the upside. Until then, we are extremely bearish on NZDCAD. We also have the EURGBP. So last week we were looking forward to this possible head and shoulder formation, and so this is the pattern. This is the left shoulder, this is the head, and this is the right shoulder right here, and where price is actually retesting the neckline of the head and shoulder. As we can see, we are seeing strong bearish momentum happening right here, or rejections. I think we step up to the weekly time frame. We can see this gives us something like a bearish reaction. So these are the possibilities we'll be looking out for the coming week on EURGBP. As of now, it's still looking very neutral because price can also break above this daily structure and continue to the upside as we have illustrated over here. So for us to get a bearish confirmation, or for us to be convinced that price wants to sell to this zone, we'll wait for a daily candle closure below this structural point, a daily candle closure below here, and should price come back for a retest into this zone or a retest of the structural point, we will now be convinced that price wants to go to the downside. Then we will take ourselves to the downside or into this zone to complete the head and shoulder pattern formation. But then if price breaks above, or should we get a structural break of this daily structure above, and price breaks above with a daily candle or closes above this structure point with a daily candle, we'll look for a possible pullback, which also will give us something like an inverse head and shoulder formation. So this is what can also possibly happen. This is the left shoulder, this is the head, and should price break above the structural point, then we'll possibly have our right shoulder formation coming back here and then continue to the upside. So these are the possibilities we have for EURGBP for the coming week. We also have here GBPAUD. So GBPAUD has made its way to, we actually had an area of interest somewhere here and price violated it, so we deleted that zone, and price has made its way to retest this area of interest. And so going into next week, if we get should we get a 4-hour structural shift, should we get price to a 4-hour candle to break below the structural points and give us a lower high formation, we're looking for it to the sells to the downside to complete this move to the downside. So these are various targets we have below here. These are first TP and our second TP and third TP we have below there. Should price also violate this zone and close it above, close above it, the daily candle will be considering this pattern or this move as bullish from there. So until then, we'll be looking forward to the bearish side of things for GBPAUD for the coming week. We also have here GBPNZD, and GBPNZD is on a weekly perspective it is bearish. On the daily perspective is bullish, 4-hour is bullish, I think monthly it is bullish, but then we are also having a reaction from this structural point or this area of interest. So these are the possibilities we'll be looking out for GBPNZD for the coming week. Should we get a daily candle structure shift or a daily candle closure below the structure, we get a lower high formation, we'll be interested in looking for sales to the downside to this very first TP and this second TP we have below. And should price also break above this zone, clear the structure points, and then if that happens, then we'll be considering this bullish and not look for the downside for GBPNZD. So we have to wait for price to develop some more before we can take our decision on GBPNZD. And so we have here EURNZD, as we shared last week. We're looking at this possible head and shoulder formation right here. As you can see clearly, this is our left shoulder, this is a head, and a possible right shoulder which is now developing. So going into next week, and as price approached the areas of interest, we can see it's slowing down. We can see some rejections, daily rejections happening right here. So going into next week, if we get a structural shift here, should we get a 4-hour structural shift below this daily structural point and we get a lower high formation, it's also going to look like a possible head and shoulder formation on a lower time frame or the 4-hour time frame, then we look for it to sells to the downside. So should this happen, and we'll be very glad to take this sell to the downside, targeting this very first area of interest, and then possibly looking at the momentum as price approaches this zone. If the momentum is very strong, we might likely target the second zone below. So until then, we are very bearish. We are still bearish for EURNZD, but then if price breaks above this zone we have here and continues to the upside, then we would be bullish on EURNZD for the coming week. We have here EURCHF, and EURCHF it's very tricky. So on a monthly perspective, EURCHF is bearish. On the weekly perspective, EURCHF is bullish. On the daily perspective, EURCHF is bearish. And I think on the 4-hour perspective too, EURCHF is bearish. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to see price pull back into the zone we have here, look for selling opportunities and target these two targets, any of these two targets we have below here. But then if we are to look at the bullish side of things for EURCHF, we would rather wait for price, or we will look out for a deeper pullback, or price should dip a bit deeper into this zone, and then look out for reversal patterns or reversal confirmations within the zone and take price to the upside. But until then, we would rather look out for the sells on EURCHF for now, before we might consider any bullishness, long-term bullishness for EURCHF. So going into next week, we just look for the pullback into this zone look for selling confirmations and take the sell to the downside for EURCHF. We also have the NZDCHF, for which we are looking out for a possible pullback or price to approach this area of interest to give us some buying confirmations to the upside. So if we are fortunate to get price to pull back all the way back into this zone and give us selling confirmations, we'll be very glad to take the sell to the downside or to this zone which we are looking out for to take some buys from. So we have here gold. So gold, from the previous week, we're looking forward to a possible pullback into this area of interest to give us buying confirmation to the upside. Price never pulled back, and so going into next week, we'll still be looking out for that pullback. If we are fortunate to get a pullback into this zone, we'll be very glad to take the buys to the upside. And also, price might pull back and violate this zone and sell and continue to this second zone we have below before we might also see some bullishness to the upside. So we have to be patient and see how price reacts in this zone, and then see and decide on what position we would like to take around that time. So, but on the longer time frame, or sorry, on the higher time frame, we are very bullish on gold. Also, should we get a break, if we're able to get a daily candle break above the structural high and we get a retest of the structural high once again, we might look out for a possible continuation to the upside. So we are very bullish on gold in the long term. We are very bullish, but we are waiting for a clearer or better entry opportunity to the upside. We also have here silver. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to, silver is also extremely bullish. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to this pullback into this zone we have below here. We are looking forward to a possible pullback into this zone and look for buying confirmations and continue the buys to the upside. And we might take our first target as the previous high as our first target, and we might look forward to $70 per ounce for silver should we get this reaction. If price also violates this zone and comes a bit deeper or gives us a 4-hour structural shift here, we might get some selling opportunities to target this lows we have here before we might see some bullish continuations from there. So we are very bullish on silver for the coming week. We have here crude oil and Brent crude oil. So for the Brent crude oil, we were also looking for selling opportunities last week, but price never pulled back to our area of interest for us to get an opportunity. So going into next week, we'll be looking forward to a pullback into this zone or this area of interest to get selling confirmations to these two TPs we have below here. Should price pull back a bit higher to the second zone above, we'll still be interested in looking forward to sales from that zone as well. This can only be invalidated if price breaks above this daily structural point and counts for a pullback and continues to the upside. Until then, we are extremely bearish on Brent crude oil for the coming weeks. We have here the S&P 500. We had this set up from previous episodes, and we were anticipating the price. I think the episode that we anticipated the price was going to pull back to this zone was around somewhere here. We anticipated that price was going to pull back from here to this zone to give us the reactions from this zone to the upside. And price didn't pull back, but finally it has pulled back into the zone and it has reacted strongly from the zone. So dropping to the 4-hour time frame, we have a clean 4-hour structural shift from a reaction in our area of interest. So going into next week, we're waiting for or looking forward to a higher low formation, and then continue to look for buying opportunities to the upside. So we are very bearish on the S&P 500 very bullish on the S&P 500 for the coming week. And if we get this formation too, we might also likely see a possible harmonic pattern formation. So this is the formation we are likely going to see. So this will be if it develops this, if it gives us this move we are anticipating, then this will be our X, this will be our A, this will be our possible B leg. So we are waiting for our possible C leg, and we get our continuation to the upside, targeting the various targets we have above here. So we are very bullish on S&P 500 now. So these are our two targets we'll be looking out for if price gives us the lower high formation and gives us buying confirmations to the upside. So we are very bullish on the S&P 500. We have here NASDAQ. NASDAQ also has a similar formation as we saw on the S&P 500. So going into next week, NASDAQ has given us a very nice reaction from this zone we anticipated it to react from. So going into next week, it has a similar formation as the S&P 500. So we're also going to look out for a possible higher low formation and then look for buying opportunities to the upside. This is also forming something like a harmonic pattern. So this is also this will be our possible, this is the X, this is A, our possible B leg, waiting for the C leg, and we take our buys to the upside to complete the D leg. So these are various targets we have above here. And on a broader perspective, this is also a possible harmonic pattern developing, a very big harmonic pattern developing we can see here. So this is our X, this is our A, this is our B leg, and this is our C leg, right? So we are looking forward to a continuation to complete our D leg. This is a possible butterfly pattern, so this will be our ultimate TP for that pattern. Should this pattern or this harmonic pattern play out, then this will be our ultimate target for that butterfly pattern we are looking out for. So going into next week, we are just going to look out for a possible higher low formation, and we get our buys to the upside, targeting this target at the top. Finally, we have US30. US30 also has a similar setup. As of last week, we were looking for it to a possible pullback into this very zone. We have this very first zone. Price has actually pulled back into the zone and has given us a 4-hour structural shift. But this momentum, this shift was not too strong. But then we also not going to neglect the fact that it's a structural shift. So going into next week, we'll also be looking at a similar thing as we saw on NASDAQ and then S&P 500. Should we get a higher low formation, we'll be glad to take the buy to the upside and targeting the various targets we had from our previous episodes. So these are various targets we have for S&P for US30, and if that happens, we are possibly going to see something like an even head and shoulder formation. So this is going to be the left shoulder. This is the left shoulder. This is these two lows, or this double bottom is like the head, and then we are waiting for like the right shoulder formation, and then we get our continuation to the upside. So this is what we are looking out for the coming week. Thank you so much for sticking through to the end of this video. I really appreciate it for taking the time to watch this video, and I also entreat all of us to apply proper risk management to our trades and trade safe and sound. And make sure you spend time with your family and friends during this holiday season. Take good care of yourself, and then let's all prepare for the coming new year. God bless you all. Have a wonderful time. I'll catch you on another episode. Take care. Bye-bye.